The Unlearning Ableism Podcast, sponsored by Even Break, making the uncomfortable comfortable. Isn't it time we started unlearning? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The Unlearning Ableism Podcast, sponsored by Even Break.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to season 2 of the Unlearning Ableism Podcast, and Happy New Year, because it is our first live of the year. We're back, Celia.
We're back, baby.
And this episode, we're kicking off season 2 with a bang. Me and Celia have now both seen Wicked. We are both equally obsessed with it. So this episode is Defying Ableism. Now, before we get into this, when we did share this, some people asked us to create a theme song, which I don't think we can do for copyright reasons. So we didn't do it, but we just called it Defying Ableism. And if Celia wants to sing, let her know.
No one wants to hear me sing. Nobody wants to hear me sing. I can't sing for toffee.
Oh, yes, you can.
No, I can't.
So welcome. My name is Jamie. I am one of the co-hosts of the Unlearning Ableism Podcast. And just a quick visual description for anyone who is watching via video. I am a white male. I have dark hair pushed up to one side. I have short dark stubble, and I'm wearing a big green fluffy jacket serving alphabet realness. Over to you.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. For anybody watching on video, my name is Celia. I am a white female. I have dyed blonde hair with very bad roots. I am aware of the fact that I need to have my hair done. I'm sat in a cream room, and there's a fireplace to my left with pictures and a window, and I'm wearing a big white fluffy jumper because my pink jumper is over there, and I completely forgot to put it on because I've been in back-to-back meetings. And Jamie, you forgot a very important part of your visual description. Everybody, Jamie is engaged.
Yeah. He liked it so much he put a ring on it. Yes, I got engaged. Imagine somebody and me is going to get married. Me.
I'd marry you.
I'd marry you too, but I'm also gay, so it might not work out for us.
You know, someone else today asked me, is Jamie your husband? I was like, no, it's not. We're not.
We get this a lot. And do you know what? I blame, when we went to the first Shaw's Trust, Power 100, that we got some photos which were in black and white, which I always automatically think, black and white photos. They just kind of scream wedding, but they also kind of scream romantic to me. I don't know why. And the photos that we got and used to initially market this podcast, it looked like we were inviting you along to a wedding ceremony. So what makes it even more awkward is you'd just been married.
I was just married, and I was actually wearing a white dress, and you were wearing a black suit, and it looked incredibly bridal. And because you and my husband actually have quite similar names, I think everybody got a little bit of wires crossed. So clarifying, for the start of season 2, we are best friends, not married.
I'm engaged to a male, which means
I'm married to a male.
Oh, I can't believe we're back with season 2. And it's 2025. Not with a fizzle, but with a bang.
With a fizzle, with a bang. I know. It's been a little bit of an update for everyone. We have had the most incredible start to the year already, and we're so bad at keeping secrets. So some of you will know the secrets that we have been keeping, but we have been working on some incredible things behind the scenes that we can't wait to launch very, very soon. Quite a few things that we can't wait to launch out to the general ether. And we've been working with some amazing brands like the Refugee Committee and the NHS and BT. And it's just been, we've had the most incredible time, haven't we? And we cannot wait for season 2. As ever, if anybody is watching on live, please do put your questions in the chat, and we will direct them towards either each other or to our special guest for the episode. So thank you. Candice just had a question come in. If hosts are able to respond to comments during the stream, we do have a pop-up running, and I will be reading those out. So if you have any questions, please do pop them in the chat. Thank you, Candice.
100%. And as we go through this season, please do, if you have questions, burning questions that you want to ask, that you maybe don't want to ask on a live or you can't catch a live, please submit those questions to us. You can send those questions to inquiries@disabledbysociety.com. I had to stop and think of our email address there. I was like, it's we also have like 4 now for a business, so it's like kind of keep up where let's not give out the wrong one. But on with the show, as we said, not with a fizzle, but with a bang. Let's defy ableism. But before we do that, we as a podcast would not be here doing what we're doing, having the resources, having the support that we do without our amazing sponsor, Even Break. For those unaware, Even Break is a job board that supports disabled talent. Not only that, they also support employers and helping to match employers to disabled talent. So do check out their job boards and check out Even Break's resources, evenbreak.com. But let's bring in Annie from Even Break to kickstart 2025 with us.
Hello both.
Hi, Annie.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here. I'm a big fan of the podcast. So
We love having you, Annie. I think we love having anybody from Even Break, but I think before we actually speak, because anybody who's watching on video will notice Annie's camera is not working. The joys of technology. But Annie,
I know. Sorry about this. I'm here. I don't know why it's not working. I'm actually disappointed because I had a memo to wear pink, and it's like Jamie's jumper. It's bright pink, like you couldn't get more pink. It's absolutely shocking pink. So yeah, I'll give you a visual description, even though you can't see me. But I am a white person with brown hair. My pronouns are they, them, and yes, I'm wearing a pink jumper, but you can't see any of that. And yeah, I'm very excited to be here and tell you a bit more about Even Break.
you're serving Glinda. We know you are because you're wearing pink. And also, don't feel bad about your camera being off. Like, personally, for me, I'm registered blind. I don't see nobody in camera, so like, do not. Annie, tell us what is going on with Even Break. How are you kickstarting 2025?
Yeah, sure. So we're really excited we've got all sorts planned for 2025. Some things are not yet released, but we can tell you that we are going to be at NAIDEX this year, and we're running a recruitment fair in the Business Without Barriers section. So you can meet some of our inclusive employers there, including Heathrow, Kantar, ITV, Mars, Lloyds of London, and Virgin Media O2. And we're offering free LinkedIn headshots again, so you can get down to NAIDEX 19th to 20th of March at the NEC in Birmingham. So yeah, we're really excited about that. What else? We for anyone that doesn't know, we're a disability job board run by and for disabled people. We currently have 16,530 live vacancies, and yay, all our roles on the board are with inclusive employers. So if you're a disabled candidate looking for work, then if you head on over to our website, we also have a careers hive if you're looking for careers advice as well. So there's lots of resources on there. And one thing I would recommend if you are trying to find start off the year trying to find a job in 2025 is you can sign up for job alerts with us. So these are tailored notifications, and they're delivered straight to your inbox. And you can add filters like location, sector, that sort of thing. So yeah, if you're looking for work, I'd definitely recommend that.
100%.
And so would we.
Yeah.
So would we. I've used your resources on the Hive. They're brilliant.
Mhm.
I've recommended them to candidates when I worked in recruitment. And in fact, we recommend anybody we work with to be going and using those resources and sharing with candidates, because we know this is what happens in January. It's like new year, new me. People are feeling a bit, is this what I want to be doing for the rest of the year of my life? Is this what I want to be doing in my career? So it might be a moment of change for you. Look at Even Break. You may still be looking for a job from last year. Again, using those resources like Even Break are providing can really support you as a disabled candidate. But before we let you go, Annie, are you doing any New Year's resolutions?
Well, actually, it's funny you asked that because we actually so Dana, our social media manager, she's actually ran a campaign this January, and the title is New Year, Same Me.
Yes.
And it's so it's just kind of just to highlight that, you know, that there are sometimes barriers. If you've got a disability, you can't always be. Sometimes you can't change things in that way. So if you want to know more about that, you can head over to our socials and see what the Even Break team have got to say about that.
Amazing.
Fantastic.
There's a quick question for you coming in the comments, and I know the answer, but I thought I'd let you answer this. Does Even Break operate internationally?
Yes, we do actually. We are a global disability job board, so you can find jobs worldwide. If you head over to our website, you can see many different locations. So anywhere you're looking for, just have a look.
Thank you so much, Annie, for sharing that with us. And I think you've raised such a good point around New Year's resolutions as well. You know, if I had a magic wand, there are some things that I definitely wouldn't be taking into 2025 with me, but unfortunately, they're here to stay and they're here to stay forever. So thank you so much for joining us. And I encourage all of you, I can see there's comments already coming in. One that says, Even Break is amazing. And we second that entirely. So thank you so much for joining us, Annie. And please do post a picture of the Glinda outfit because I was so sad.
It has to go into the comments. It has to go in the comments because she told everybody about it.
Okay.
Thanks, Annie. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Do you know what? I love that they said about New Year's resolutions. Same me. Because you remember when we were talking about content for January and I was saying, why don't we do something along the lines of New Year still disabled me? Because I'm still as disabled as I was in January. And as we were reminded there, like New Year's resolutions, like I would love to be like, yes, I'm going to go and get really fit and healthy. But there's days when burnout is happening. You know, we've been working right through the Christmas holidays. Some of us came into the year burnt out. We're frantically chasing ourselves. So those resolutions don't always happen. We have to manage our spoons. And my spoons have firmly been, Jamie, don't leave the house and take this month. Be catching up on what you need to catch up with.
I think as well, like you raised a good point, and I haven't really seen anybody talking much about this. But this sort of New Year's resolution attitude can also contribute to that mechanism of internalized ableism, about the fact that you see everybody out getting their gym memberships, starting a new diet, getting a new job, making these massive changes in your life. And again, you go back into that feeling of my disability is stopping me doing this. I want to be doing this like everybody else. I want to be here, there, and everywhere, or starting a new club, or starting a new whatever it may be. And I feel like January, I in particular really struggle with that mentality about the fact there's so many things I want to change and I can't. And it kind of contributes to my internalized ableism, especially as we were so burnt out coming into the new year anyway. It really escalated that mindset. So putting it out there as we make the uncomfortable comfortable, if anybody's feeling like that, you're really not alone in that.
And you know what, like, wasn't Monday just past there? Like, was it Blue Monday they call it, where it's just like meant to be the saddest day of the year? And I was just like, what do you mean, January, this whole month? Because it feels like there's 58 days in this month, even though we know there's not, before anyone tells me I'm wrong. It feels like it's a lot longer. It's a lot colder. And I think as well as that there, we see everybody running out going, I'm changing this, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. And I sat here and be like, I would love to go join a gym class, but like me sitting trying to watch somebody who's instructing a class is not going to work. So I think we have to think that everyone's diverse needs and what they need. But you're not alone in January. Self-care is so important this month.
Absolutely. I can see some comments coming in, and Annie has very kindly, they've put the links to the websites and the job alerts and everything like that in the chat. So if you are looking to get involved with Even Break, please head over to those links in the comments right now. And for anybody listening on playback, it's www.evenbreak.com/new alert /.
Fantastic. So I'm excited because we are going to bring out our guest now, our first guest of 2025. And I think what we're going to focus on for this episode, as you've may guessed, the title is Defying Ableism. So let's bring in a guest and start to have a conversation around ableism. Now, let's do this. Mhairi, welcome.
Oh,
do you want to get
hello.
Lower on the green, serving Glinda realness? Oh, no, alphabet realness. Correction, I'm not the only alphabet here.
Yeah, Jamie, stop hogging it, all right? You've got to share.
Thank you.
I didn't really come with green face paint on, but I was just like, I don't have paint, and it's I'm traveling tomorrow, and I do not need that rash in my face. But I'm conscious for visual descriptions and introduction. Mhairi, over to you.
Yep. Hi, I'm Mhairi. I am a white female, blonde hair, dyed, not natural, unfortunately. I'm wearing a green jumper and I've got some glittery eyeshadow.
And it's sparkly and it's a wicked eyeshadow because we spoke about this behind the live. I don't think I could get away with eyeshadow because my eyes just roll around my head. Like if somebody walks past me, I'm like looking at them without actually looking at them. It's just my eye going. So sparkles, whenever I have something like sparkly, my eye just constantly gets triggered back. So I think I would just be sitting here just looking at the sparkles, which wouldn't be good for anybody. But on you, it looks stunning. So
Thank
we
you.
are talking ableism. Season 2, we are defying ableism. But I think let's give everybody a recap. And I think we'll start with you, Mhairi. What is ableism?
Yeah, so I guess ableism for me and what I interpret as is it's the unfairly favouring non-disabled people. It's something, just to put my hands up straight away, I never thought about before I identified as having a disability. So talking about it today just feels really kind of like the right thing to do, because I, like a lot of people, had never heard of the word before.
100%. And like I think that's the biggest problem, isn't it? It's like when you are born disabled or you acquire a disability, nobody comes along and says, oh, by the way, this is what you're going to have to experience. This is the name of it. Oh, and by the way, ableism, you're also going to feel internalized ableism. But Celia, give us your snapshot view. What is ableism?
I mean, I resonate a lot with what you're saying, because, you know, we'll talk about your experiences and the things that you've been through. For me, ableism was incredibly difficult to come to terms with, because I have a rare condition and something that nobody knows about and nobody's talking about, and even trying to get access to medical help has been impossible. That ableism has almost felt quite ramped up, and I recognize my privileges of the fact that my condition and where I live and all of those sorts of things, but having that rare element added on top has made that internalized ableism quite difficult to deal with, I think. And I think you kind of share a lot of those experiences. So I was wondering if you kind of introduce us to a little bit of the experiences that you've had and what you're comfortable in sharing, because I think a lot of people, and me especially, really resonate with your story and find a lot of similarity in it.
Yeah, rare disease
Literally.
gals.
It's a club.
Yeah. Yeah, so I have a really fun rare disease called hyperphosphatasia, really good for Scrabble. And I got diagnosed officially a couple of years ago. I kind of remember when I got diagnosed, I was like, oh, why isn't it a disease that everyone has heard of? Because part of the battle and part of my experience is having to explain what it is, because a lot of my friends, family, colleagues had never heard of it before. And I think for me, I've been born with it. It's a genetic disease, but it is progressive. So when I was kind of born and growing up, my symptoms and impact was quite minimal. I kind of had a relatively normal life, school, university, work. And then it was actually obviously pandemic time when my symptoms decided to flare and I kind of seek a diagnosis. And that's really when I kind of went from, oh, I'm able-bodied to, oh, I actually have a disability. It's impacting me on a daily basis, and I need to work out how to manage it in this world.
I mean, I resonate a lot with that. So I also have a progressive condition, and when I was younger, I didn't class myself as disabled. Now I know that I should have done, but the ableism was right. And I didn't want to use that word because I was embarrassed by that word. And I always hold my hands up and say, not my word, I didn't want it. I was just the sicky kid, like, just be sick and that's your thing. But I think it's really interesting what you say is the fact that no one gives you a handbook about how to progress if you book from non-disabled to disabled, or if you have that very, very sudden switch up in your health, going from being relatively okay, you know, with the few odd grumbles, to suddenly your life looks very different now as it is. But then also you're sat there at home going, oh my gosh, I know this is progressive. This is just going to get more and more intense. No one's given me a handbook. Nobody's told me how to deal with this. I don't know what to do. I know the ableism is going to get worse. That's even if I've been told about ableism right now, which, you know, no one does. So I'm going to have to learn all about internalized ableism. I'm going to have to learn about ableism. I'm going to have to figure out a plan. And there's just this absolute kind of cascade of your mental wall just dropping, and you have to sit there and there's no one to turn to and there's no one to talk about it. And then we often get that internalized ableism of, am I sick enough yet to be part of the club, to be part of the community where I can ask the questions? Am I at that point? And obviously that is not a thought process that people should be going through, because there is no there's no standard of sick enough that's made up and something that, you know, no one should be adhering to. But we do think that. And especially when you have something rare as well, trying to find that help, you're trying to navigate your own journey, but then also trying to navigate the actual physical side of things, and the help just isn't there. So you end up in that kind of spiral. And I wonder if you could talk a little bit, for anybody listening that might have had similar experiences to the ones that we've had, about advice maybe on navigating that journey of how do you cope with something that is progressive and kind of looking at your future, and also how you deal with that immediate point of diagnosis and going, okay, things are going to be different now.
I mean, it's hard. I don't think I have it right. I think obviously have official name and a diagnosis, which is very lucky. A lot of people who are chasing that diagnosis, that can be the hard part. I think for me, it's just trying to be open and talk to people. I think when I first got diagnosed, I hid it. When you have an invisible illness, I look the same as prior to my diagnosis as now. So a lot of my friends, family, colleagues didn't realize what was going on. I mask it really well, which again didn't really help people understanding what was going on. So I've become a lot more vocal the last couple of years, really kind of stating what's going on, what I need if I'm having a bad day. It's scary because I'm quite stubborn and I don't like to admit that I'm struggling or that, I'm in pain or that anything's difficult. But as you said, it's got to the stage, it's progressive. I couldn't hide it anymore. And it was impacting my mental health by not talking about it. I think the first step is talking about it with your best friends or with people you really feel comfortable with. They love you. They've been there for you, your family as well. And, you do hope that they will accept it. And then also just being transparent in if you're employed, kind of in your workspace there about what you need and accessibility as well is really important.
I've just seen a
but it's
comment
really hard.
from Claire that says the "Am I sick enough?" comment. I spent 10 years in that space. Thank you for sharing. I think it's something that we've all been through and thought about. And one of the things I kind of wanted to follow up with that, what you've just said there, is I've also had so many conversations with myself where I've gone, okay, if I'm going to be positive and I'm going to be a disability advocate, because of course, I like other disabled people and I want to be part of this community and I want to defy ableism and break down barriers, it's also okay to say that you don't like being disabled. And this is something Jamie and I have spoke about quite a lot. It's not about your identity, but if I could wave a magic wand and take it away again, oh my goodness, I would give anything for that. I'd give, my final wish to the genie so that I could be a healthy person, physically healthy person. And I think we wrestle a lot with that of, I wish I could go back in time and not be at that point anymore, whilst also respecting how grateful we are that we have access to the support that we need in terms of getting a diagnosis when so many people don't. But that kind of playing on our mind of, right, I have to be really positive about this. But also when I'm alone, I'm really thinking about how much I hate this. And it's so okay to feel those things because people don't talk about that enough. Everyone online is so positive, being like, I love being, it's like, great, fantastic, amazing. You don't have to feel that way. And I think that's so important for people to kind of recognize.
You have to be able to, this is the thing, I think everyone expects you to be so positive. Do you know what I mean? It's like we have so much toxic positivity around us. You should be grateful to be included, but I'm not being included. You should be grateful they are adding alt text, but I can't use alt text. It's like you almost have to be grateful for the small things, and I appreciate it. It's people are making efforts, but things don't change overnight. And if you're feeling guilty about having to make an ask to somebody like, actually, can you add an image description to this? Actually, I'm going to need X, Y, Z to support me. You feel guilty having to do that. So I think as a person with disability or a person with a health condition, you're constantly battling this. Should I advocate for myself or should I not? And then you feel, I'm just going to say it, you feel shit. It's just like, I feel shit being disabled. Like there's times where I'll encounter an inaccessible barrier online and I will get so angry, and I don't get angry at the barrier, I get angry at myself. And that's internalized ableism. It's internalized ableism. It's that monologue that's in the back of your head is reminding you that you're not disabled enough, or you're too disabled, or you shouldn't be asking for this. And it's just continuous. And I wonder, Mhairi, for you, how did you find, you could obviously share there, you'll speak some tips there, but how did you find that voice, especially in the workplace where we know it's so much more challenging to overcome that internalized ableism?
So we actually set up our disability network last year, and I'm the lead of that network. And I work in sales and marketing, so I'm very used to going out and selling and kind of talking in front of a lot of people. But the opening kind of presentation we did in front of our work, I've never been so nervous in my entire life. I was shaking. I kind of almost started crying, and I was like, what is going on? Like I'm quite a confident person. Usually in front of people, I love presenting. That's kind of where I excel. And I realized it's because it's such a personal topic. I'd never talked about that ever before in front of such a large scale of people, and to my peers and my colleagues and to my managers and directors. But then I did it, and I went home, and it just kind of felt like a big sigh of relief. I was like, I've done it, like I've said it, and people know it's out there. And I was just like, that's half the battle, it's done. But it's a really personal journey, and I think you should never feel guilty about how much you disclose or how much or little you disclose, right? It's what you feel comfortable doing, and it could be a gradual process. I'm only really getting more confident talking about it now, 2 years after my official
And
diagnosis.
I can
So
really
yeah.
resonate with what you said about the disability network. I can remember the first time I spoke with my last employer's disability network, which I also led, and I can remember speaking and coming away, and it was almost like you're speaking and you know you're speaking, but the words are leaving your mouth, and then after you're sitting there going, I just trauma dumped a lot of stuff that even I haven't processed. And I think by being in that kind of community in the workplace, having those disabled colleagues who get it, people who maybe don't have a similar experience but similar and can relate to the ableism experience, it just creates a space where you get things off your chest, and then you go in and be like, I didn't realize I felt that way. And then the more you do it, the more confident you become. But I think we're lucky because disability networks, not every workplace has them. Me and Celia, like, our one advice to companies as soon as we start speaking to them is create a disability network. Like, who better to know the organization than the people who've been through that process, who know the good, the bad, the inaccessible, and which managers to avoid talking or disclosing in front of. So they are the people who should be talking. But in the context of workplaces that don't have disability networks, I wonder what advice we would give to somebody who doesn't have a disability network to find that confidence. Where should they go to get that support and find that confidence?
Yeah, I think it's, first instance, your manager, if you've got a good relationship there, being open and honest. I kind of have always sat down if my managers have changed or I've changed teams, and I've kind of gone, this is what's going on with me, and this is what I need. And I've been very fortunate that have had very supportive managers and HR departments that have given me what I've needed. But that's kind of the first instance. If it's not that, then going to HR, accessibility requirements or flexible working requirements are great as well, right? Because obviously we're returning back to an environment where a lot more employers are mandating 5 days, 4 days in the office. Me as with my disability, there's absolutely no way I could do 5 days. I would run out of spoons. I'd be into negative spoons if I was 5 days in the office, or it just mean I'd have no life outside the office. I'd have no social life, nothing else. So putting in that flexible working request if you can, employers in the UK have to obviously be able to grant that or to look at that, and that for me has just given me peace of mind that my employer is supportive of me, they're flexible of me. As you know, Celia, when you've got a chronic illness, it flares. It's not a Monday to Tuesday thing. It's I could be great for a week, or it can flare, for an entire week or whatever goes on. So it does need a little bit of flexibility there from the employer. And that request has been so great for me.
I think that's fantastic advice. And going back to that kind of rare disease piece, obviously there's two of us here on the rare disease club. Sorry, Jamie, you're out this one. You can't be in our club. You can't sit with us. I saw your post the other day about you can't sit with us. It's really interesting navigating having that initial conversation, because you don't just say the word and people go, oh, you don't get diagnosed with something that, fortunately, there's been so many awareness campaigns around dementia, around having arthritis, around cancer. And in no way am I saying that it's an easier conversation to have, because of course those conversations are so difficult. But when you're trying to explain to someone and you find that kind of strength and self-advocacy to go and say, yeah, I've been diagnosed with this is what this is going to mean. And then they go, you can see on their face that they're going, I have no idea what that is. How do you kind of broach having that conversation when you're trying to explain to people how you feel and things that might happen to you and why you need that flexibility, when you've got that additional barrier, the fact that nobody knows what this is? There might be quite limited research around this. It's not something you can go and Google and get your answers in 2 minutes. So how do you kind of navigate that conversation for anybody else out there who doesn't really know how to broach it because they're worried people won't understand what it means?
I'm not saying it's the best advice, but generally what I do is I try and relate my disability to something that people could understand. So I suffer with chronic fatigue, right? Which is as fun as it sounds. And I think a lot of people didn't understand chronic fatigue, but then COVID long COVID. And then a lot more people were starting to understand that. And I was like, well, that symptom you had during COVID, or if you suffered from long COVID, that's what I have every day. And the pain you might have had from that, or, you know, other symptoms you might have had from that, I suffer with that every day. And I'm not saying it always works, because sometimes our symptoms are so bizarre, like I don't even know how to say that. But trying to relate it back to people, to things that people know or can understand in themselves, I think really helps. You know, there is a lot more awareness for autoimmune diseases now, and kind of, as you said, like arthritis or things like that. And, you know, I was initially diagnosed with lupus. That's kind of the first iteration of diagnoses I went through. So people kind of got that. And sometimes, hands up, I still say I have lupus, because it took so long for me to explain to people what that was. Trying to explain what my new rare disease is, it's just sometimes really tiring. So
I feel that so much. Sometimes I don't even tell people the name. I just go, I've got this thing, and what it means is this, and I don't even tell them the name, because it's like the condition you have. It's very complicated to explain, and they'll go, sorry, was that SZ? And you go, oh, just don't bother. Just write down something else. I'm not bothered by it. Just all I'm bothered about is that you understand and that you care and you can show empathy and also proactiveness. It's not about naming the condition. It's not about, I can see some comments coming in around inspiration and pinning people just because they've opened up about their experiences and things they've been through, and all of a sudden they are the shining spotlight and they are the shining voice, and actually sometimes we don't always want that. So I think that's a really interesting comment, so thank you for everyone for adding that.
100%. And I think that, you know, I think the names conditions as well, it doesn't help that the names conditions are so complicated, and not just for you know, health conditions, but like even like my eyesight condition, ocular albinism and astigmatism. The only word in that sentence somebody is going to have a clink around is ocular, if they do, or albinism. So it's like, put that together, what does it mean? When you start to look at the medical conditions, the names themselves, it's such a, and when you try to use like an all-encompassing word, like I'm visually impaired, I'm blind, I have a chronic health condition, it doesn't cover individually what you need, because what happens in that moment is ableism will shine through, because the person will say things like, oh, I know somebody who's this, and it's like, no, I have a completely different health condition. It's not the same as your cousins, aunties, brothers, sons. Like, it's, I think people, and as you said, it's like almost like a relate, it's a way to relate. And I think a lot of times it's the same with ableism. Nobody's intending to set out to be like, I'm going to get up today and I'm going to piss every disabled person off and I'm going to exclude them. Nobody gets up in the morning with that mentality. Well, and if they do, the very small minority. We'll not talk about current climate. But with regard to, you know, with the ableism, it's not that people are intending to do this. And I think when they're trying to relate things or say those things, it's them trying to make that uncomfortable moment comfortable. And I think this is what we need to get better at when we're talking about not even just disability, but any kind of difference. I think we have to get comfortable in that uncomfortable moment, because there's more power being able to sit in that moment comfortably and maybe ask a question, ask the following question. Well, how does that impact you, if you don't mind me asking? Or how can I better support you as a manager? It's asking those questions that are intentfully going to support, not asking because, oh, I'm bored and I just want to pick you apart now, or I want to argue against you because I know such and such and they don't have that experience. And I wonder, with yourself, you know, acquiring this later on in life and having to go through that process, as you said, you were diagnosed with lupus first, that sounds incredibly frustrating. And I wonder how that impacted the relationships you were having, you know, both professionally and personally, as you were going through that experience.
Yeah, it's been tricky. Like, it has been difficult. I have had some friends and colleagues who have been supportive, and as you've said, they've sat down and they wanted to learn in a healthy way what's going on with me, how they can support me, and they've kind of done their research and been great support. I think on the flip side, I've had some, you know, difficult experiences. So when I was kind of diagnosed or kind of in the process and I was kind of struggling, in my previous employer, one of my managers when I was kind of applying for a promotion, they went, well, are you sure you can handle that? Are you sure you can do that with your disability? Now, I get why they were saying that. And I'm going to say, as you say, I don't think they were out to get me or, you know, anything like that. But it really kind of upset me going, that's that's my decision to make. It's my decision to know if I can handle that, or if I can't, what I might need to be able to handle that. It's not your decision. And then the whole time when I was going through the process, I was like, well, is that what you think of me? Is your back kind of writing here, oh, she's not going to be able to do it because, you know, she's struggling too much on a daily basis. So it can be really difficult. And I think on a personal level with my friends, I have struggled. It's been really difficult sometimes because I look fine. Like, I look like the Mhairi from 5-10 years ago who was, you know, running half marathons. So for them, I think they've not quite understood it. My family as well. Like, we're getting round there, we're talking about it. But again, I think some people really struggle to understand, you know, to talk about it and to broach that subject. So it's not always easy.
I mean, I resonate so much with that. And going back to what Jamie said, when you tell people, you know, that you have a chronic condition or an illness, or whatever word you want to use to identify, people automatically go, the one I get all the time is, oh my God, my uncle's got IBS. You know, have you tried this? Have you tried taking these pills? I'm just sat there like, okay, IBS.
Have you tried yoga? Have you tried some
literally,
yoga or
tried
Pilates?
yoga, acupuncture. Have you tried these herbal remedies? Have you tried heat packs? I'm just sat there going, IBS is not the same as paralysis of your intestinal system. IBS is horrible and incredibly complicated to deal with and can lead to awful situations, but they're not the same thing. But what always strikes me when people do that, and when you were there talking about your relationships just there, you know, I've had friends that have left my life because they found it too difficult. I've had partners who've left my life because they just can't deal with it anymore. And whenever I kind of establish a new relationship with someone, you know, in the beginning, I'm kind of like, okay, how do I think are they gonna be good with this? Are they gonna be chill with this? But instantly my brain kicks into, you are so focused on the medical model that your first two thoughts are, how can I help you? How can I cure you? And also you've instantly then made a presumption about what I can and can't do. You're seeing my condition as now my primary interface. I've got it written all over my face now, and you're never going to forget it. And it's the first thing you think about me. You know, whenever you see me, the first question you're going to ask me is, how are you feeling? And people always say to me, well, that's a really normal question to ask. I'm like, no, it's not. We ask people, how are you? You know, how are you doing? How's your week been? Asking me how I'm feeling is because you're directly now thinking about my disability again before you're thinking about anything other aspect of my life. And I just wonder kind of, how have you managed to navigate these situations? You mentioned there kind of your friends have been really supportive, and that's been amazing. For anybody that's not yet had those conversations, what advice would you give to someone about how to kind of get that going when you're in that informal environment outside of work where it's very different? But there is still that fear of, are they not going to want to hang out with me anymore? Like, I remember when I, you know, stopped drinking and stopped eating, I was like, literally no one's going to want to be my friend anymore, because they're going to think I'm so unfun and so uncool, and they're not going to want to be friends with the weird girl with the backpack. And, you know, I had presumed that that's what people were going to do, and some people did, but most people didn't. But it was very hard to have that conversation. And there's still people from my life who I want to reconnect with, but don't dare, because I don't even know where to start. I don't even know how to explain I'm really not the same person I was when I was 17, and I don't know how to have that conversation with you.
It's really hard, and I'm still probably a little bit in that phase because I am a social butterfly. I love having friends. I love being in a big social circle, and sometimes I used to hide it and not want to talk about it in fear of losing friends. In past relationships with partners as well, I've kind of downplayed it because in fear of, well, they're not going to want to be with me because of my disability and what might happen in the future. That is hard to deal with, and it gives me a lot of anxiety. I get a lot of social anxiety by having to almost admit, you know, I need a bit of help, or I need to step away, or I am different. I think I've done quite a lot of therapy. My therapist, who has been honestly amazing, really made me realize what was my deep-rooted fear there, like what was I scared of? And it actually kind of stems from, I'm scared everyone's going to hate me. And trying to get over that has been difficult. But now that I'm getting over that, I'm starting to realize, like, if these people are not going to support me and they aren't open to this conversation, then these people shouldn't be in my life. You know, if you're giving what you can for a relationship, friendship, whatever that is, and then they can't give you that back, then those people shouldn't be in your life. It doesn't have to be drama, it doesn't have to be a big explosion or anything, but as you said, like, you might drift apart from those people, and you need to look at kind of getting people in your life that will be supportive and that will be there for you, and vice versa as well, obviously.
Do you know, when I was younger, I have an experience, and I think I shared it last season this too, is I had a girlfriend when I was like 15, 16. All my friends did, and all my friends were learning how to drive, and they were all so excited. And I can remember, it must have been around 16 for me, and I had told this girl, I'm not going to be able to drive because I have bad eyesight. And obviously I wasn't using the word I'm registered blind because I didn't feel comfortable. I told everybody I had bad eyesight. I needed glasses. Oh, but glasses didn't work. So like, it was just a complete kerfuffle of a lie I kept getting caught in. But she told me, oh, I don't want to go with you no more, meaning she didn't want to see me no more. And it was because of my eyesight. And like, I was still young, and like, let's be real, I knew at that age that I was gay, and I was trying to hide it. I was trying to do everything to mask and stay in the closet because I'm from Northern Ireland. I was from a rural Catholic town in Northern Ireland. You can't be gay there. So I learned pretty young on that, like, in relationships, you hide that part of you. And like, even when I did come out and I was living in the city and I was going out and I was meeting people, like, it wasn't like I would start the conversation with that. Like, I can remember going and out to meet people and then saying, oh, I'll be standing at the bar, and me walking in and all I see is shadows. And it's just like, shit, who's the person I'm actually here to date? And then it makes you look like you're not actually interested, and you don't tell the person, actually, I can't see you. Actually, can you do what my mum or my family does? They describe what they're wearing, and then I can identify you by color. Like, it's so much easier that way for me. But I didn't do it. And even with my fiance now, which, by the way, I realized I showed my ring at the start of this call, and I definitely put it in my right hand. So I did. I must have looked at myself in the mirror. I was like, why is this not fitting? It was on the wrong finger. But even with my partner, at the very start, I didn't really give it all. It wasn't like, oh, here, I'm registered blind. And, oh, by the way, my mental health has nosedived for the past few years. But my partner very easily noticed it. And I think that's something that's really different around those people who want to support you and who are empathetic to you and are really in your space for the right reasons. They notice those things. Like, he noticed I'd struggle with the restaurant menu and would read it out to me. He had noticed that I wouldn't see him across the car, so he would hump the horn as loud as he can multiple times and hang out the window and scream my name. So it was like those little small things that made such a big difference. And when people are around you, let me rephrase that, when you're around people and they're not kind of being that supportive, or they are questioning, oh, well, Celia, why aren't you eating that meal? You know me, you should know this by now. So it's almost like, that's, for me, those little signs show that you care a lot more, and it's a good relationship. But how do you handle those working relationships where, do you know, like, you can walk away from a personal relationship? If I'm not getting on with you, all right, we don't need to be friends. We don't have to have drama. I wish that happened when I unfriended people, but unfortunately, I always have drama with my friends when we unfriend.
Jamie magnetizes
It just
the drama,
follows
and it's
me.
so much. Yeah, but it is quite fun, I must admit.
Oh.
As much as I'd love to hate it, I can't help it. It's just
Every day.
every couple of days, you'll never guess what's happened on LinkedIn. I'm like, love it. Tell me.
Like,
send me the
constantly.
link.
And I keep saying to students, like, I'm not trying to argue with people. I think it's the neurodivergence in me. It's that social right and wrong. I'm just like, I have to say something if it's not right. I completely forgot where we were going with this now. ADHD.
I want to add on to what Jamie was saying as well, that there is such a fine line between you being empathetic and understanding and crossing that line into, you're not my carer, you're my friend, you're my work colleague, you're whatever relationship you are to me. I don't need you to be my carer. You know, I have my individual care plan. If I need help, I'll ask. But that constant kind of infantilization of, can I get you anything? Do you need it? And it's like, you can see that your intention is there. But when you kind of cross over that level of what you would do for everyone else and now do it to me, you know, if we've had a chat of, it'd be great if you could do that, or if you can see me struggling, you know, please come over and say something. But that constant kind of, you okay? Can I get you anything? And it's like, I'm not a baby. Stop trying to baby me. And I want to tie that into Jamie's question about how you kind of manage those work relationships when someone isn't receptive. You obviously can't just cut them off. You have to stay in their presence and how you deal with that situation.
I love you remembered that. I completely had a mind blank. I was like, what was that?
I've got you. Too much makes the dream work.
Yeah, it's hard. Like, it is hard. And I have had in the past managers that haven't supported me, and I'm currently in a really good setup at work, and I have a very supportive team who are there and supporting me and helping me. I think it's tricky. I think a big area that's really tricky is, especially with the progressive diseases, how long can I work for? Like, am I going to be able to work for till retirement age, whenever that is in this day and age? But can I work till I'm 70? Like, I don't know. I'm on a new drug, thank you NHS, that is really helping me and keeping me stable. But, you know, it's such a new drug. I don't know how long it will work for. And I do have this fear of, like, can I try and progress, even with a supportive team, even with a great workplace? What is my career going to look like? Can I get up to where I want to? Can I get those promotions? Like, what happens if I do need to kind of, you know, quit working or reduce my hours? Or, as I said, I'm a really stubborn person. I'm really ambitious. I want to go all the way in my career. But there's that little thing in me that's like, it could just all end tomorrow, like your illness. Because when I got diagnosed, I was in a really bad place. I remember, maybe TMI, but I was sat down, I was in a bar with my friends, and I went to the toilet, and I sat down on the toilet, and I just was crying. I was in so much pain. I cannot tell you how much pain I was in. My body was like on fire. And all I could think to myself is, like, I'm 28. I cannot keep going. Like, if this is going to be my life of this amount of pain, and like, and this is how I have to live my life until my dying day, I can't do it. I can't work. I can't have friends. I just can't. And I remember coming out of that bathroom, and I was just like, one of my friends was looking at me, and I was just like, I just can't do this anymore. And it really scared me. As I said, I'm in a lot better place now, but I do have that little thing in my head saying that could happen again, and you could just have to stop working. So yeah, it's a really scary world to navigate when it's a chronic progressive disease. Sorry, probably went a little bit off topic.
No,
Yeah.
can we pause you a moment? Because you
Yeah.
just opened up and shared, and it was so vulnerable and it was so raw. And I know so many people listening that will relate to what you just said, because it's the thing that we don't say out loud. Like, we talk about internalized ableism and how it impacts things like a self-advocacy, how we relate to others. But the thing that we don't talk about is that side of, like, our mental health, like a psychological harm. When you're in that environment and that's all you're experiencing, it brings you to dark places. And I'm going to be really open and just trigger warning for anybody. You know, I self-harm for a very long time. In fact, that's why I have a Star Wars tattoo on my wrist to cover that, because I felt shame. And now I look at it and like, no, they're the scars and stories and words of my past. You know, I attempted suicide multiple times because I wasn't getting the support. I hated who I was. I was abusing substances. I was doing everything and anything to be somebody I wasn't. And when you look around you and you see friends and family, and you're happy for them, but they're getting promotions, they're having families, and you're sitting there still struggling to find a job that lasts over a certain amount of time, and you're still struggling to articulate your needs. It's so incredibly hard. And going to the doctors and seeking specialists, they don't understand that disability element a lot of the times. It's never, well, actually, if you considered how internalized ableism is impacting your mental health, you know, for me, looking back at my past, like, and I know we're talking about me got engaged at the start of this call, but I contribute so much to where I am today because of the people that I found who supported me. My partner, before I met my partner, I was wild. Like, my path was so dark. I didn't think I'd be here today. But having that support, and then meeting Celia and having my friend David, like having my family, and starting to, as you say, you kind of get that confidence. It gets to that point for me. It came to, I can't do this no more. If people don't want to accept me, that's on them. But to get to that point, I had to go to the lowest point to get back. And I think we don't talk about that side of disability and the mental health side, because it takes its toll. It's not just one day here and there. It's every single day.
Yeah. And I think, you know, we often talk a lot about kind of peaks and troughs in mental health. And again, you know, for anybody that might find this a triggering conversation, please do put us in mute and come back in a couple of minutes. We often talk about that kind of peak and trough, and we see a lot of mental health campaigns focusing on it does get better and everything's going to be okay. And I remember speaking to my therapist a lot and saying, right, you're treating me like I've been in this horrible situation, but like now I'm out of it and I'm all okay. And like, how do I put that behind me and move on with my life? What you're failing to recognize the fact that I live with this every day. Like, you cannot treat this as something I have been through and I'm not going to experience again and tell me I'm safe and I'm, you know, it's not going to work. And I think not enough people talk about the fact that it can sneak up on you anywhere. And since we're all sharing, I had a very vulnerable moment during COVID where I just come out, it wasn't COVID related, ironic, I know. And I was lying there in intensive care, and it was when I got told, right, you're going on to TPN. And for anyone that doesn't know, TPN is basically, we are not going to use your intestinal system. You're going to have a tube into your heart, and that's how you survive for the rest of your life. And I turned around and I said, don't want it. No, I'm not doing this. And they said to me, well, you're already, trigger warning word, you're already dying. If you don't do this, you are definitely going to die. And I said, I don't care. I actually don't care. And because it was COVID, I couldn't have my friends and family. And I was screaming bloody murder in this, like the poor nurses, I feel so awful about it now. But the poor nurses were probably having the worst time. I was literally physically pushing people off me, saying, do not bring that anywhere near me. I don't want it. If that's going to be my life, I'm not interested. And, you know, thankfully I made the right decision and I started taking it. But even now, like, and Jamie will know this, I ring him all the time and I say, I hate this. I cannot. Or I stand at my, you know, my plug-in station is just over there. And I stand there and go, not doing it. I actually can't be asked. I'm not doing this. And it creeps up on you from absolutely nowhere. And everyone talks about these big peaks and these big troughs in mental health. But not many people talk about that sometimes daily fluctuation of, you know, I'll have a really productive day and we'll have achieved loads and, you know, made money and done all these partnerships and forged change. And then I'll stand in front of my plug-in machine and go, I can't do this. What am I doing? Why is this a way I want to live kind of thing? But you have no control over that. And so much of mental health support is go for a run, you know, eat good food, go and see your friends. And it's like, what about us that can't do any of those things? How are we helping ourselves? And I really wanted to kind of, now we're in a couple of minutes, kind of end on this conversation around how do you support yourself from a mental health perspective? Because it does ebb and flow. And I think not enough people are talking about that. And I thank you both so much. I think all of us for our vulnerability, because people will resonate with it a lot. But when you have something that's progressive as well, and I know this feeling all too well, that sometimes I call it my doomsday thoughts, where I sit there and go, I've had a really productive day. How much longer is this going to last? Like, and it makes me want to work harder, but then I burn out and I get myself in this bloody cycle of just work hard, but not too hard. And how you kind of deal with that mental health every day of not knowing what's going to happen at all. Yeah.
Yeah, I think, like, so I also take a medication that I have to inject every day, which is new. I used to be petrified of needles. Now I have to inject every day. And it's the exact same thing. I look at it and I'm like, I can't, not today. Like, I don't want to do it. Anxiety is really difficult. I have had really, really dark thoughts. I've cut out friends. Like one of my best friends, I feel like I've distanced myself because of my anxiety. And I know that, and I just want to pick up the phone and tell her I love her and she's one of my best friends. But my anxiety just creeps in and I just become like, I just can't do anything. I just lie in my bed and I can't move. I don't think I figured it out. I think I'm a lot more stable than I used to be. And that's been going to therapy, trying to be as regular as possible, and trying to find something fun. So I can't do exercise anymore, or I can do low impact. And I was like, I want to do something that I go to and I can enjoy. And so I went to improv classes, which is so random. I did several months of improv, which was just crazy. I had to do a performance at the end of it. So out of my comfort zone, but I came out of that and I was like, hey, look, I've learned a new skill. Like, so fortunate for that. I don't need to do, you know, the high rocks or the marathons that a lot of my peers are doing, which I wish I could do. So trying to find something you can do, you can achieve within your range. But anxiety is, I'm allowed to swear? An absolute bitch. It is so horrible. And I sometimes think it can actually be the worst part of my disability. In all honesty, I can manage the pain. I know what to expect. But the anxiety is just, it can just get onto you.
That sentence hits me in my core when you say, like, you know, I always really sorry for this expression and it's used in other circumstances, but it's not what I mean when I'm about to say this. We always say that I bareback it. So I can't take pills. I can't swallow pills. So I'm doing this with no pain relief. Jamie, stop it. I'm being honest that that's the word we use. And I guarantee you there's other people that do it too. but we call it barebacking. I do this with no painkillers. But that's not the bit that I struggle with. Like, of course I struggle with the pain. Oh my gosh, Jamie, get it together. But actually the worst bit is my own thoughts and my own head. And I really, really thank you for putting that out into the ether. And I can see so many comments coming in of people talking about this and saying they completely agree. And also people providing some examples of things that people have told them to make themselves better. Andrea said, someone said to them, have you tried patting yourself in a sequence? There we go.
Makes no sense. I had somebody ask me about my eyesight before, and they said, have you tried infrared treatment? It's like, my retinas aren't attached properly. Do you really think I'm going to let anybody come near my delicate retina to fix it? It's not going to help. I'm so sorry, because I absolutely lost what you said, barebacking. Because I'm not going to say what I was going to say that now, but I cried because I just was crying laughter there, because I think this whole episode has been so emotional. It's been so vulnerable, because it's the part we don't talk about. It's the part that most of us need to hear, because sometimes you do need to hear, do you know what? It is shit before it gets better. It is going to be difficult. It is a learning process. I'm 34. I know I look 21, but I'm 34. I'm still working out. How do I navigate those instances where I do hate myself, where I do struggle to articulate, where, I was telling Celia and our content creator earlier, as I'm aging, I'm now feeling my eyesight getting worse. And everyone's eyesight gets worse, but I'm noticing the blurriness more. I'm noticing myself struggling to read things more. And it's just that almost that sense of looseness. So I think this conversation and that vulnerability has just killed me. And I do also struggle with barebacking, Celia.
That probably means something very different.
It does appear. Let's not tell nobody. Conscious of the time, Mhairi, where can people connect with you and follow you and learn more and just be around you, because you're absolutely amazing?
I mean, yeah, just obviously my name is not the easiest name to find. So if you find me on LinkedIn, there's not very many Mhairi Harrises out there. So LinkedIn, Instagram as well, really happy to talk about it. I'm trying to build up a community myself. So really happy to chat to anyone and post more about it as well.
And we tell everybody, once you've been a guest in the show or we've spoken to you, you don't disappear. You've now got stuck with us messaging. But do you want to help go jump in and do this with us? I think this is what we need to be doing. We need to be creating spaces for these conversations to help build community, so we can connect with others, because that's the best thing about me about doing this whole thing, is creating content, speaking with disability. I got to meet Celia. I've got to meet you today. We've got to create this podcast, and we get to connect. And it's so nice to know you're not so alone.
And I think as well, Rare Disease Girly Club as well, that feeling of loneliness, boy, oh boy, does it feel there so much. So, I really thank you for being so open and so honest about your experiences as well. And thank you so much for joining us. And there is so much agreement in the chat of everything that you've said. And I, on a personal level, resonate a lot with you as well. And I think a lot of people will resonate with what you've said. So thank you for being so open.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Thank you so much, right? And thank you everybody for tuning in, whether you're listening back, whether you're watching live, whether you're watching record, however you were absorbing this episode. We will be back in February. We'll keep the secret as to the secret plans, the secret squirrels that we're doing over the next couple of months. But we have a jam-packed couple of months ahead of us, and we're really excited to share it all with you. So thank you all so much for joining us. In the final 2 minutes, one sentence from each of us. How would you defy ableism? Jamie, kick us off.
I would get community, be around community. Connect.
Amazing. Mhairi, your turn.
Just talk to people about it.
Amazing. And I think my piece of advice would be very similar to what these guys have said, but share in a safe space and create safe spaces for others. With that big bang, the Defying Ableism, are you sure you don't want to sing for us, Jamie? I heard the voice note. What you won't know, all of you watching or listening, is that there was a voice note shared where we actually had the full rendition of Defying Ableism.
It was recreated.
But then it was deleted before I could save it. When it says WhatsApp, this message has been deleted, I thought, you bastard. That was going to be wedding footage.
I'll send you it again.
Thank you all so much for joining us, and we will see you in our next episode in February.
Bye.
Bye.
The Unlearning Ableism Podcast is sponsored by Break. an award-winning global social enterprise run entirely by disabled people for disabled people. So if you're looking for a job in an inclusive employer, or you are an organisation looking for disabled talent, find job listings and set up alerts on the Evenbreak job board today. Visit evenbreak.co.uk or scan the QR code. The Unlearning Ableism Podcast, sponsored by Evenbreak.